morning. I'm Gabriel Poveda. Thank you all for coming. Show of hands, how many of you have heard of the college admissions scandal? Okay, wow. For the 0 of you who haven't, it's where about a dozen officials at prestigious universities are accused of accepting bribes in exchange for the admission of the children of wealthy clients. At the University of Texas, an athletics coach is accused of creating fake positions and statistics for prospective students. It's funny, actually. When all this came out, I was with some friends, and their parents said, "All right, Gabe, the jig is up. How much did you pay to get into UT?" I said none. I said that I had simply earned a spot on the Quidditch team. The college admission scandal, I think, is more important than its contemporaries make it out to be because it opens a window into what we as a society value and what we are willing to do to achieve it. I can't speak for my classmates, but I know many of us have spent the last 4 years valuing our SAT scores, our GPA, and our class ranks. Don't get me wrong. I think it's important to value these things, and I've spent the last 4 years valuing these things as well. But so I thought that getting into top schools, achieving success was the most important thing that I would be called to do in this stage of my life, but I was wrong. I learned this about 2 years ago when I realized my dad, Luis, had amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS. It was a dark April day, and my dad was driving me to a volunteering event. As we were driving, he pulls out of the glove box one of those hand grip things you use to improve your strength. He said, "I'm losing the strength in my hands. I want to get my grip back." My dad had experienced some symptoms before, but I always dismissed ALS because I thought, he doesn't have that. He doesn't suffer this. When he said he lost his grip, my mind flashed back to the symptoms page on the Mayo Clinic website, and I thought for the very first time, my God, my dad might have ALS. He dropped me off at the event, and I just sat outside, and I thought, what did we ever do to deserve this? Today's speech is about my journey to become his caregiver. It's about the values I've come to understand and the roles that we can all play in the protection of those that we love. The first lesson I learned is that caregiving is all around us and connects us all. A few months after my dad was diagnosed, we began to attend an ALS clinic at the Houston Medical Center. Every month, dozens of ALS patients joined together to see a team of specialized neurologists, pulmonologists, dietitians, and other disease experts. It was breathtaking. You walk into a lobby filled with ALS patients, and your heart sinks. Some are more progressed than others, some are sadder than others, but the common denominator is their family. They are surrounded by family. This is the ALS clinic. I was impressed by the science and the medicine, but I was shocked behind the support behind each and every ALS patient. I started to realize that although ALS is rare, caregivers and their loved ones are not. When I got home, I started to see this in my community. Maybe it's the teacher whose spouse has cancer. Maybe it's the classmate who suffers from cystic fibrosis. Maybe it's you who care for your sister. Everybody knows someone who is fighting and someone else who is helping that fight. Although caregiving is such an intrinsic part of our lives, it is often relegated to some sort of secondary status. Work takes precedent, performance takes precedent, production takes precedence. It is a tragedy of modern life. Caregiving connects us all because it's part of life. It has been in the past, it is now, and it will be in the future. Taking care of my dad does not dilute my life because it is a part of my life. This is the role of a son to a father, of a mother to a daughter, of a spouse to a spouse, or a friend to a friend. Each person who gave a part of their life so that we may succeed deserves our utmost care. The most quintessential part of the human condition is caring. It is an ether that binds us all. There is another reason that caregiving connects us all: demographics. The 2010 census was a harbinger of things to come. Our elderly population, age 65 or older, will more than double to 71 million by the year 2030. Research by the AARP shows that our infrastructure is ill-equipped to deal with this increase of people who have specialized needs. The responsibility to close that gap falls squarely on our shoulders, on all of us sitting here alive and well. We should never forget that a disease can never dampen or define the delight of a smile or the beauty of our loved ones. Caring for them is our greatest responsibility. The CDC says that 1 out of 6 non-caregivers can expect to become a caregiver in the next 2 years. And that matters because if you haven't been called to caregiving, at some point you likely will. Our problem is our neighbor's problem, and the reverse is also true. The second lesson I have learned is that caregivers need support. A 2015 report set out to understand the emotional and physical toll that caregiving takes on its participants. In 2015, 45 million Americans were caregivers and were not paid. That same report says that caregiving takes an average of 40 hours of work that is unpaid on the caregivers. The statistics will tell you that 6 out of 10 caregivers worry about their next paycheck, that a majority of them report having stress-related health consequences. I don't need the statistics because I see it every day in my mom, Carolina. Imagine taking care of someone's breathing through a tracheostomy. Imagine taking care of someone's feeding through a PEG. Imagine being responsible for every aspect of someone else's bodily life. Now imagine that they're the love of your life. Now imagine doing that every hour of every day without a paycheck or health insurance. My mom never complains because it is what she has been called to do, but more institutional support must exist for caregivers. It is our duty. The state of Texas must pass Medicare and Medicaid expansions that exist under the Affordable Care Act. With health insurance, it gives caregivers a little bit of a peace of mind, and that makes it all very worth it. Support isn't only institutional, it is also found in community. I know I speak for everyone in this room when I say that the support of others when your family is struggling can mean the world. Last year, my family was a part of the Walk to Defeat ALS. On a hot, sticky, uncomfortable, muggy Saturday, over 30 of my mom and dad's coworkers and friends showed up in a gesture that deeply moved and motivated my father. As his kid, I was touched to see that my dad made an impact in the lives of Hispanic people, of African and African American people, of Asian and Latino people. That's a sense, regardless of community, country, or creed, they came to support him. That's a sense of community you never lose. I know that a kid with sick parents in a tough place can feel a hell of a lot less alone in the world when his friends say, "I'm there for you, I've got you." I encourage all of you to be an active part in the lives of others. You may inadvertently be part of their strength, and you never know when the shoe is on the other foot. The final lesson I've learned is that caregiving is the most important thing that you will do. When I was young, my mom had cancer, so I grew up thinking, what happens when your time comes? What will your people and what will your God say of you? Let me tell you what I say of my father. Not a day goes by when I don't realize a sacrifice he had to make sure I grew up where I did and how I did. He worked the night shift at Walmart for over a decade just to make sure that when I got home, he'd be there to cook me dinner. Even though he was exhausted on the weekends, he'd still make sure to take my mom to church just because it made her happy. When she was sick with cancer, he took care of her. My dad learned to cook for me. He never smoked and he never drank for me. I can't tell you how many times I would call him at school and say, Dad, I forgot my homework. Can you bring it to me? My dad is worth more than any degree of any university of the world because of the care and compassion that he brings into the world. To borrow a phrase, he lives with charity towards all and malice towards none. Years from now, when my days are numbered, when my accomplishments are many and my shortcomings many more, I will look back on today. I will think, did I care enough for my dad? Did I care enough for others? I won't worry about my SAT score. I know that today, taking care of him has the potential to be the time I value most. Thank you all very much.